Welcome to another episode of Euphoric the podcast, and we're going to get pretty deep and vulnerable today because I'm going to unpack and share my 2.5 year journey, my fertility journey of trying to have a baby for the last 2.5 years. Now, this is something that I've kept pretty private, something I talk about sometimes with my personal clients, but not really with the whole world because there's just so much judgment and opinions and other people who think they know the best for you and just so much weirdness around it. Also so much weird sadness around it that people want to project on you. So I've really guarded it and really kept it close to my heart. But I just felt really called. I just felt really called to share and to give my perspective and to share my story just the way it is, and maybe it's not the perfect story with the happy ending yet, but I just thought that it could help someone and give you a sense of hope and just kind of know a little bit more of what I've been dealing with as well. So it's been a 2.5 year journey now that I've been trying to have a baby with my husband. And we decided to start trying 2.5 years ago after a big trip that we had to Europe. It was this beautiful season that we actually lived in Europe, and he just quit his job, and it was just such a, pinch me kind of moment, and we were ready to start building a family. And, obviously we didn't get pregnant right away. And, I kind of expected it a little bit. I am a little older. I started when I was 35, and I know there's all this judgment and all this stuff out there about, you have to start when you're younger and your eggs and blah, 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 blah. But obviously it's not really helpful when you already are older and you still want to have a family. And we found it to be a really confusing world because, for example, we wanted to start getting help from our primary doctors and from our health insurance. And we quickly learned that they really can't do very much with our insurance. So basically, when we started trying to get help from the conventional medicine, we didn't find very much support. And other than maybe testing my vitamins and my thyroid and stuff like that, once we were there, our health insurance wouldn't really cover any other fertility support, which kind of sucked. And even though we pay for the best health insurance and it's quite expensive, it's not enough to cover any fertility support. So right away with our primary doctors, our whole network, all of that was closed to us. So it's like, okay, now what do you do? And let me tell you, I read the books, right? Even before I started trying, I read books like It Starts with Egg and all about optimizing for pregnancy and fertility. So we were already optimizing and doing things a little differently before. And I just dove into more books. And at first it felt like there weren't even that many books about it. And one of the things that has driven me nuts is this label of infertility, right? Because the second you put the label on yourself, it becomes this identity, and that's not who I am, and that's not anything to do with me and about me, right? So I'm actually looking for fertility books, not infertility books, but it just is hard to even find information online and where to go. And that's kind of part of the process of where we went through. We eventually found a really great local fertility clinic to start working with. And I'll be super honest with you guys, IVF might be on the table one day, but I just felt this really strong intuitive pull that it's not now, that it's definitely not now, that it's not the route for me. And so we started working with a conventional medicine doctor to help us test more, to do, my husband's sperm analysis, to test my ovaries, to test all that kind of stuff. And we've done a lot of tests also with naturopaths and other kind of practitioners, and it's been really hard because there haven't been so many answers yet either. And there's nothing been really glaring, at least about me, about why I haven't been able to have a pregnancy and a baby, and everything looks healthy and good and everything like that. And I want to keep this pretty private because it's not just my story, this is my husband's story too, but we were able to find that there's probably some male infertility that is going on or some factors in that area. And again, I don't want to go so deep into that. But, at the same time, our conventional doctor was like, well, he should exercise more or, make sure he doesn't have his laptop on his lap and stuff like that. So it was kind of frustrating that it was like, okay, well, sure, we can make these changes, but like, what can we really do to make changes? And that's when I really dove in the wormhole, right? That's when I really got involved with more practitioners, reading so many more books. I have learned so much about fertility and hormones and just general health in the last few years because of this journey. And we have been following so many different protocols and so many different diet plans and trying this and trying that. And it's been actually kind of fun. And it's so weird to say that because, as soon as I tell someone that it's been a long time that I've been trying to have this baby, they meet me with sadness. They meet me with, oh, I'm so sorry to hear that, and that must be so hard for you. And I'm going to tell you a little bit through the things I've learned through this journey that, yeah, trust me, I've been sad. Trust me, I've had the fears that this is never going to happen for me. I've had those moments of doubt. I've felt like, let's just screw it all and like not even try anymore. I've felt all of the feelings that you could possibly feel when you get your period, when you are not hoping for it, right? But at the same time, it's taught me so much more about how to have fun on the journey. Because the thing is this is my life. And if I just want to fast forward my life to a point where I finally have the baby that I'm meant for, I'm going to completely miss the life that I have right now. And so even though it's been frustrating and there's so many different things we've tried that maybe haven't worked yet, I have found that I need to just enjoy this. I need to just start loving to, heal myself. I need to start loving my health. I need to start loving these different practices that we're doing and these different, maybe even inconveniences that we're doing to be able to have a baby. Because one of the worst mindsets you could possibly get into is, oh, this other person didn't have to try that hard, and this other person didn't have to pay very much money, and this person didn't have to do this, and this person didn't have to do that, and it was so easy for them. Why is it so hard for me, right? And so I want to go over some of the things I've learned. I think we're going to round out 8 different things I've learned on my 2.5-year fertility journey. But one of the most important things I wanted to start with is that there are so many levels of health. And I used to think I was really, really healthy. And I think most of us do for the most part, right? Like if you're not waking up eating Little Caesars and drinking Mountain Dew, you think you're a healthy person. If you eat your vegetables and you eat well-rounded meals and stuff like that. And through all the books I've read and the different programs I've taken and the different practitioners I've worked with, it goes so much different layers and layers and layers into that health, right? And oftentimes when you get tested by conventional medicine, unless you literally have heart disease or dementia or diabetes already, the doctors will tell you that you're normal and that everything's fine, right? And as I've done different tests with other practitioners, it's like, no, you're not maybe always optimal though. Just because you're fine, you're normal, you're mediocre, doesn't always mean you're optimal. And so as I've been exploring these different levels of health, it's been really, really interesting to see how far you can go with it, basically. And I think one of the mindset shifts that I've always had to have around this is, how can this be fun? Instead of seeing this as like, I have to do this to have a baby, no matter what, my health is going to have a longer lifespan if I do this kind of stuff. I'm going to live longer. I'm going to have less diseases and stuff. And so even though I thought I ate healthy, there were certain things that I never really did before I started my fertility journey that I've had to learn along the way. And one of those examples is breakfast and eating protein at breakfast. So I used to be someone who intermittent fasts, and intermittent fasting obviously has a lot of dialogue and discussion about it. It's supposedly really good for your metabolism and your longevity, but it might not be so good for people who are trying to have a baby, right? Because if you think about the time that you're a hunter-gatherer, like, when you're in a starvation period, Mother Nature was like, now is not the time to have a baby. We need to find some food for you, right? And when you had the feast, that's when Mother Nature was like, oh yes, this is a good time for you to produce. And so I had to change that, and I had to change how I eat breakfast, and I incorporated a lot more protein into my life, which incorporated a lot more meat, and I actually was a lot more plant-based before. And, I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole of this versus that, but it's just changed the way I eat, basically, and how much protein I get in the morning at breakfast and what I eat. And, I used to either not eat breakfast or just eat some oatmeal or even eat those bars. I try to get the healthiest ones, the ones that are only made out of like nuts and fruit and stuff like that. But yeah, there were times when I had to get on a client call early in the morning and I just had a bar and a cup of coffee, right? And that's not my morning anymore. That's not how I live my life anymore. I try to have my calls and my meetings a little bit later because no matter what, I try to eat a very healthy breakfast. And that can mean different things to different folks. And again, this isn't like a nutrition war episode, but right now I'm eating eggs, I'm eating some kind of other protein in addition to that, and then we eat a lot of vegetables. Think like steamed and sauteed spinach, carrots, cucumbers, radishes, sauerkraut. Like half of my plate is vegetables. And it's actually been kind of fun because if you're someone who really likes to count how many servings of vegetables you have a day, but you don't get very many at breakfast, it's like harder to catch up later on when you're eating just in lunch or dinner. So it's been kind of fun to change up breakfast this much and have this like really beautiful gourmet meal, like the pasture raised eggs with the like very yellow yolks, the protein, whether that's like a turkey bacon or some other protein that we have going on, and then half of your plate of vegetables and then some berries on top of that for dessert. I have even recently, and this is just, I'm bringing it up because it's breakfast I'm talking about, but there's a lot of science that caffeine isn't the best for fertility, but at what limit, right? So most people say don't have more than 1 cup. And that was really easy for me. I'm pretty sensitive to caffeine, so I only ever had 1 cup ever. And I usually would have even instant because it's even less caffeine than a normal cup of coffee. But recently, since around January this year, I completely cut out caffeine. So now I'm drinking only decaf, either tea or coffee or herbal teas. And again, I don't know if it's made a difference, but what's interesting is that I don't need it. Like, I don't miss it. I don't really need the caffeine at all. There's no difference that I can ascertain after like the transition period for sure. And then what's really crazy is that because my body is so much more sensitized now, both to, not drinking alcohol, not eating as much sugar. When you start to treat your body right, your body gets really fine-tuned and it starts really telling you when you eat something that's not good for it. So for example, I get migraines if I eat too much sugar. I will wake up the next day and I will feel hungover. It's not worth it, right? It doesn't say, not to say I don't eat sugar. I definitely eat dessert still sometimes, but it is not worth it to have something like a Snickers bar that I know has that high fructose corn syrup and is definitely going to give me a headache the next day and make me feel like I have a migraine, especially if I eat it too close to bedtime. Right? Not worth it. So with the breakfast, now we have the decaf coffee or the decaf teas. And if I once accidentally drank like half a cup of regular coffee, I think in around March, oh my God, I couldn't fall asleep until like 2 a.m. that night. I had it in the morning. I had just half a cup and I couldn't fall asleep until 2 a.m. that night. So I am like, oh shoot. Whether or not I want to go back to caffeine right now, it would be trouble for me. My body got so used to not drinking coffee. So we're not going to go there, right? And that's been kind of really fun because now I just know that no matter what, it's not a factor. Whether or not it was a factor or not, I took it off the table. Same thing really goes with alcohol. And obviously that's not something that I needed to worry about because I already stopped drinking. But if you're trying to have a baby and you are drinking alcohol, either male or female, it is one of the worst things for fertility. And I wish that I had the baby in my arms to prove it to you, to say like, look how fertile I am. But no, obviously this is a super vulnerable topic and it's not a happily ever after yet. And yet I still feel like there's so many valuable things to share about how things have changed. There's so many other levels of healing I've done, so I want to go into it in some of my other tips, but my husband and I did a 10-week detox where not only did we change some of the foods that we're eating during that 10-week detox and incorporate different foods in different seasons, but we also were really detoxing, meaning that we were sweating, that we were taking these supplements that were meant to extract some of the heavy metals and the other toxins that maybe were building up in our tissues and release those. And one of the really cool things that came out of it is that we got a sauna. And it's not one of those beautiful saunas that are made of wood that look gorgeous. It's actually one of those ones that it's not inflatable, but it's like basically could be, compacted down into a little box. So it's like a pop-up sauna essentially, and you just have your head sticking out. But it is such a luxury. I love it so much. And what's really cool compared to those wooden saunas is it heats up really fast. So a lot of those wooden saunas actually take about an hour to heat up. And this one heats up within the first minute or two. So it's actually, for what we need it for, it's really, really great. I really love it. It's from a reputable company. But the thing about this main point I want to make about how there's all these different levels of healthy is I always assumed I was healthy. And now that we're getting further tests run and my husband's getting more analyzed and, he's had a few health challenges on his own. And again, I want to keep his privacy intact, but he's had some issues with other medications that he needs and just other things happening, whether they're genetic or lifestyle, they've been kind of just coming up. He's in his early 40s now, and it's just life. It's just happening to us, right? And we're changing our lifestyle. It's not like we were eating hamburgers every day or going out for fast food, but even that's changed, my desire for some of that stuff has changed. Even having a little bit of it doesn't sound sometimes so appealing. I will say that my one kind of Achilles heel is dessert. I don't eat it every day, but I still love to finish off something with something sweet, and dark chocolate is really good for that, like the really, really strong kind. But I still obviously will have those cheat days where I have the dessert that I want, and I just don't care. You know what I mean? It's just part of what I want that day. So along with learning that all these different levels of health exist, one really good mindset reframe, again, that I've been trying to have is that this is helping improve your longevity no matter what. You'll live longer because you're doing these things. If I start thinking it's not fair that I can't eat this, or it's not fair that I'm not eating that, or it's not fair that I don't get to drink coffee, or it's not fair that I have to do all this work for my fertility, immediately I put myself in a bad mindset. Like, that is the worst thing we can think. And if anything, I hope this episode, even if this is nothing to do with your fertility or you trying to have a baby, I want to share how I, as a coach, as someone who thinks empowerment is one of the most important things we can hold on to in our life, I just want to share with you openly how I've been dealing with this. And I haven't been pushing away the sadness. I've allowed myself to cry. I've allowed myself to feel things, but I have to shift my mindset. I can't believe that I'm infertile. That is not even a story that I'm allowing myself to tell myself. And that's one of the tips I'll talk about too, is even the languaging that we use to describe these kinds of things is so, so important. So another thing that has been really important on this journey that I've learned that is basically also how toxic the world is. And I was one of those people who believed that if you ate well enough, you didn't need to have supplements, and that people who were into all the non-tox stuff were kind of a little hippy-dippy. And I really started to see it in a different way. Like, once I started really learning how much chemicals and how much toxicity we're exposed to all the time, and it's almost sickening too, right? Because you feel powerless. Like, what am I supposed to do? I can't, I can try to remove all the plastic around me, for example, in my house, but, there's just levels that sometimes you can't really change with the air quality or with the water quality and stuff like that. And so there's been some things that I've been so resistant to change because I didn't believe that someone should have to go this far in order to live a toxic-free life. But for example, we don't drink water anymore, the normal water that comes out of our fridge. So we had a Brita filter and a filter in our fridge, and we stopped drinking that water on recommendation from one of our practitioners, that we should be drinking like the purest water we can get. Because even if, these other companies are filtering certain elements, there's certain chemicals that can't get filtered out. And so we're drinking pure distilled water, which is the cleanest water you can get, and then we're adding minerals back into it. So we're adding really high quality salts into it, or, fruits like lemon or something like that into it. And I actually really like it. It's really been, in some ways, I have to see some of these health changes as, you are a vessel, you are this beautiful vessel. Let's truly, really take care of it. Let us honor it. Let us really luxuriate in all the things that you deserve. You deserve the cleanest water. You deserve the cleanest air. You deserve the cleanest food. So instead of thinking of it as like a why me, or why do I have to buy this? And I hate buying things. I really, really hate buying things that I think are one day I just won't use. So I'm not very materialistic in that way. I love experiences more. I love traveling more. And all of a sudden, someone wants us to buy a water purifier and an air purifier and this, that gadget and this, thing and this supplement. And I'm like, oh, I hate this. Not that necessarily I have a block around the money mindset part, because it's a lot cheaper than some of the other things I've spent money on in my life. But it just feels like, what if I buy this new gadget and I don't even end up using it, right? Like, I hate the futility, the uselessness feeling of that. But I've worked through a lot of that stuff, and I'm constantly making upgrades. Like, we got the sauna, we got a water distiller, and we're just making more and more upgrades around our house where we can. And even with the supplement regimen we've had to do, like, the 10-week detox was expensive. Let's just say that, right? Like, we're paying like almost $1,000 in supplements a month when we did that. And again, I just had to shift my mindset. Like, this is something I get to do. This is something I get to heal the deepest levels of my health, the mitochondria, the tissues, like the things that have accumulated so much burden and toxicity over time. And it's just been really interesting because, again, I don't want to be a fearmonger. I don't want to be one of those people who is scared to fly because of radiation or whatever. But it's just an awareness. It's an awareness of where we can make choices and where we can make, have different options, then let's execute on those things, right? Like, if we can remove a single-use plastic and use glass instead, that's easy peasy, right? Especially if you make that change once and then you never have to think about it. So that's been kind of nice in the reframe of it. The third thing that I've learned, and this is something that I'll close off with, and I'm going to do a part 2 to this episode because I just have so much to say about it. I have learned so much. But the third thing that I've learned on my fertility journey that has been very long now is you have to have a spiritual connection. And I think that it would have been so easy to just give up, to be so much sadder than I have been. Like, to tell you the truth, when I tell people this story, a lot of times they think it's worse than it is. They think that, I'm crying all the time and that I'm so frustrated and so sad and we're going through all these hardships. And yeah, it is frustrating when you get your period, when you just did an IUI treatment and you were really, really hoping it would work out. But at the same time, I have to love my life the way it is now. I can't be in pain and hate the fact that I don't have a child yet. I have to appreciate what I have now. And it really isn't that bad. It's actually freaking amazing and an extraordinary life that I've built so far, right? And yeah, I don't have everything that I want, but I'm going to focus on the things that I have right now. And so one of the most important things that has helped me keep the faith is the spiritual connection. So spiritual connection both in things outside of me that I can't see, whether you call it God or the universe, but also with the baby itself. And that is what, I think the hardest thing when you are trying to have a baby and it's not happening for you is that you start to think, what if this will never happen? Not like if someone knew, if you knew no matter what, if you're going through the struggle the same way I am, and you knew no matter what in 8 months you would get pregnant, who cares that it takes 8 months? Like, I think we would all chill a little bit, right? But I think at the fact that you're not sure if you'll ever have a baby, if you're gonna just, not ever be able to have a child of your own is where the fear comes up, right? And you're too old, or all your eggs are too bad, or, like whatever it is that we hear kind of from mainstream fertility conversations. And that has been something that I have had to work with and lean on that spiritual arm. First, leaning on just, am I meant to be a mom in this lifetime? And it's interesting because I'll be really honest with you guys. Like, my sister she didn't raise me, but she was 9 when I was born. So she always had this little sister to take care of. So for her, motherhood was like a natural. It was like, for sure I want to be a mom. For sure that's my purpose in life, is to have beautiful children. And she's had 3 children ever since she was 37. So she had one at 37, 41, and 44, which again is quite later in life to have all your 3 children. But that was like always her thing, that she was going to have children, and it was so important to her. I was different. So I was the baby in the family. I didn't have anyone younger around me to, help raise or anything like that. And I've always had kind of an alternate way of wanting to live my life. I wanted to travel more. I'm an entrepreneur. I want to just do things differently than what society like tells you to do. So I wasn't as pulled into motherhood the way that some other people are. However, I had definitely had that moment of deciding, like, do I really want to be a mom or not? And I lean to the yes. I see a child, I see a beautiful baby that is my spirit baby that I'm meant to have in my life, and that she's here to learn from me and my family, and we're meant to give her so much love. And I've seen that and I felt that. And some of the ways that I've done that is, first of all, there's incredible books about it. So they're called either like Spirit Babies or, spiritual fertility, books that really connect nothing to do with the biology or the science or the health, but really with that deeper realm of, there is a place, let's say, that your baby is existing right now, and you can talk to her or him, and you can connect with that person. And that's kind of the world of the intuitives and the world of psychics and stuff like that, and even the world of just having faith that your baby exists out there, that they're out there, that they're wanting to come to you, that they're making that journey to you right now. And that has been so helpful, because without that spiritual connection, without that belief that she is out there, it would be easier to give up hope. It would be easier to feel doomed and that like this would never work out for me. And so I've connected personally just through those really deep meditative states, those intuitive states. Being in nature, I think, is really, really important to really connect to those deeper messages. But I've also gotten readings. So I've done like a reading where someone tapped into the unborn child, and then I did another really good intuitive reading where she really tapped into like what she wants to come to this planet for, why she chose me, why she chose my husband, and I've always felt a little bit of guilt that, I want to live a totally alternate lifestyle than most Americans. I want to travel. I want to, be able to have alternative schooling even. I just have different values than a lot of different people. And I felt bad for that. I was like, is that okay for a child? Do they want more stability? Do they want the white picket fence and all that kind of stuff? And this incredible intuitive told me, the spirit baby intuitive told me, like, your child is choosing you for a reason. Like, they want that life. They're inspired by you. They're in awe of you. They want to learn from you. And I think having that connection of just knowing that she's really, truly out there has helped me so much. And I will tell you that it hasn't always been easy, because, for example, after I had my first IUI, so the IUI is the insemination, and because my husband might have some more struggles in the department for fertility, my conventional doctor actually hasn't even recommended we go for IVF yet. He is only recommending IUIs for now, and naturally. And so we did our first IUI in March of 2024, and I got all the signs. Like, I saw my grandmother, there's this thing I read in a spiritual book once, that your last departed relative is the one that's closest to your spirit baby that's not born yet. So for me, that's my grandma, that she's up there, in heaven or in the beyond with my baby. And I got messages from my grandma, and I saw the wildflower that she communicates to me through, like on a walk right after we had my IUI. And it just, so many signs were hitting me that I was like, oh my God, it worked. I also had a sign of a ladybug, and every single time I saw a ladybug, and it was right around the time I was having this IUI, I was just like, oh my God, she's coming, or he's coming, I'm feeling more of a she, so I'm just gonna say she, but obviously I'd be very happy with a boy too. But I just got all these signs, and I'm like, it's gonna happen, I'm gonna be pregnant. And the 2-week wait, right? If you've ever tried to have a baby, and it didn't turn out, and that was probably the most heartbreaking time that I've ever gotten my period of all the times, of all the, I don't even know what 2.5 years of periods look like, like at least 30 periods probably. But that was probably the most heartbreaking time, because I felt like I had so many signs. I thought this was really gonna work, And we tried another IUI cycle after that, and what I've taken from it is like, why would I get all these signs when it didn't work? Is, I have to believe that the signs aren't just for that one time. I have to believe that the signs go so much deeper and bigger than that. And the signs that I got that one time are still speaking to me now. That, my grandmother and the flower and the ladybug and the spirit baby that's communicating with me, she's telling me that she's coming. And it doesn't make a difference if she came last year or this year, or even the next year. Like, time is irrelevant, right? At this point, it is that you just need to know that she's coming. You just need to believe that. And that spiritual connection has been everything to me. And if you are someone who's trying to have a baby and it has been a difficult journey for you, I really recommend that. There's a really good book called Spirit Babies you could read, but there's also people who are spirit baby intuitives or spirit baby facilitators, where they communicate with your spirit baby. And whether you believe in that or not, like, it's just really uplifting, because they will leave you with a lot of hope and a lot of connection and some solid, tangible proof that this is happening for you. And you know that when you actually believe it's happening for you, you're so much more likely for your body to actually listen. Our cells are always listening to us. So it's not like I'm trying to stay positive. Every month it's going to happen. Sometimes I really don't feel like this is the month that's going to happen, and not from a negative place, but just from like a knowing. And other times, it's just that deep knowing that I don't control the timing of this. It's this divine timing that's going to happen. And we'll see what happens. I don't know if I'm going to come back, 2 years later from now and tell you that we're having a baby or not. I don't know. I cannot have certainty over how the future will end up. I'm just telling you the things that I've learned that have really, really worked for me in this phase, in this season of my life. I will not call it infertility, because I just believe that we are on a fertility journey, and it is teaching us, and we are learning so many things. And you know what? The world wants you to think also that it's all the female. And just from the tests that we've done, it actually points a little bit more, probably 50% more on my husband, and probably 50% me. I don't know. We can't tell exactly, but for sure we have some red flags that have come up in his area. And so it's been a lot of communication too, like, I can't nag my husband to death to not do this and not do this and not do this and not do this. And there's a lot of things he's cut out of his life already 3 years ago, right? That weren't necessarily good for fertility, but we've also learned how to really bond together and how to grow in our health together. And that's been a really, interesting journey of trying to control everything, but also of, doing this together with another person, because that's the whole point. And I think a lot of women carry this journey so alone, and that it's all them and all their responsibility. And obviously you're the one who's going to be holding the baby. So yes, like, you want to be the healthy one, but the half of the DNA is coming from the guy, right? Or whatever situation you're in. So I'm going to close it here. Tune in for part 2. I'm going to go over 5 more things that I've learned on my fertility journey, my 2.5-year fertility journey. And I hope that no matter how this conversation lands for you, that obviously it's a positive note, that at the end of the day, we control our mindsets, that we are able to feel empowered no matter what's happening in our lives, that we can reframe negative thoughts, that we can have so much faith and so much hope and so much belief in the future that we are wanting to create. And we can love the journey too, that we don't have to wait for the perfect outcome to finally exhale and be happy. I'm not allowing myself to only be happy when I get pregnant. Because trust me, when I get pregnant, as for anyone who has a child already knows, I will probably be miserable. And the first few years are going to be hard. And then the next few years are going to be harder. Like, I get it, right? I get that it's not just this happy ending. You get pregnant and everything magically wraps up in a bow. And I'm really practicing, how can I be the happiest version of myself right now? Even though this has been something we've been struggling with and it's been a challenge for us, we have an amazing life. You know, the business and the career and the travel and the friendships and the family and everything I have right now is so freaking amazing. And I never want to look back at this period of my life and just see pain or frustration or confusion, right? I want to see joy and peak experiences and such gratitude and such a connection with my life path and my life purpose. That is how I want to remember this season of my life. So I hope this was uplifting for you. I hope that you'll send me positive vibes, and if you have any judgment or opinions to share that aren't very friendly, please just leave them out. You know, it's really vulnerable to share with you today, but I hope that this episode helped you and see challenges and things that are coming up, hardballs in your life for you differently as well. Thank you. Tune in next time for part 2, where I go over the other 8 things that I've learned on my 2.5-year fertility journey. I can't wait to see you then.